All right, welcome back to the Marks of a Man podcast channel, production of Men Build Men. Glad to have y'all tuning in. Today we're going to be interviewing our friend Brandon Harden, who's here with us. Welcome, Brandon.
Appreciate you having me, Jim.
Yeah, man. So we're going to be covering a little bit about his story of fostering, and he's a participant here in our organization, Men Build Men, works in Atlanta as an electrical contractor. So we'll hear more about that in his life. But let's just jump right into your story, bro. Like, where were you born and raised? Where'd you grow up? Give it to us, man.
So, I was born 32 years ago here in Bartow County. I've lived in Cartersville my whole life, actually pretty close to here off Mission Road.
Really?
Been here my whole life. All my houses that I've lived in individually outside of my family home have all been within 5 miles of each other. So, pretty rooted Cartersville resident.
Yeah, I didn't know that about you, man. So how many siblings do you have? Do you have any?
I have a stepsister and a half-sister.
Okay. And so, like, what year were you born? 32 years ago, you said?
93.
Yeah, 93, man. So born in Cartersville. What were you participating as a young guy? Did you enjoy sports, hunting, fishing? What was your gig as a young guy?
I competed in baseball pretty competitively. Played travel ball. Played a lot of the Bartow County All Stars. I grew up in the Bartow County rec system.
Yeah.
Participated in All Star baseball, travel baseball. I've been to Cooperstown. Played at the Dreams Park.
Yeah.
So that took up a lot of my childhood. Was playing travel baseball at a pretty competitive level.
No outdoor stuff, no hunting, fishing?
Not
No?
really.
Okay.
No.
Right on. What was your home life growing up? Did you have a pretty solid, intact home life? Were your parents pretty involved? Were you involved in church? Did you have a bunch of aunts and uncles? Like, frame up for the listeners a little bit about your extended family at large.
So I grew up in a split household. I had divorced parents. As far as faith goes, no foundation in faith. Had aunts and uncles. My uncle's a local pastor here in Cartersville.
Okay.
So when I did go, I went with him.
Right on.
Huge family, lots of aunts that stepped in when needed.
Yeah.
Spent time at my dad's house certain nights of the week and on every other weekend.
Okay.
So custody agreement, that's kind of how it was all lined up. So I did a lot of moving, a lot of shifting, and that's pretty much how.
Yeah. Was it difficult for you as you were involved in baseball and travel baseball to move in and out? Did you ended up, like I say, jump ahead to 16? Did you get your own car? Did you drive yourself? Or were you still heavily relying upon, both sides of your families to cart you around?
Yeah, I had means of transportation.
All right. Were you a car guy or were you a truck guy?
I was a 1992 hand-me-down Toyota Corolla 5-speed kind of guy.
Right, manual. I wonder how many of the listeners actually can still drive manual, And hopefully some of you listeners actually know what manual is. I'm sure some of our older people know what a manual transmission 5-speed, right? You want to give them any lessons on how to drive a 5-speed, bro?
Yeah, just let off the clutch a little early on the hills.
All right. Right on, man. All right. So split family, custody agreement with your dad and your mom, a big, large, extended family. Your aunts, you said, had stepped in. You were part of baseball, not much in the faith community in terms of going to a church, attending church, anything about Jesus. So like up until let's say your high school year, pretty much baseball was your gig.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like looking back that was an accurate assessment of your life, that you were just about baseball and trying to fulfill your dream to play at the next level? Or what were you thinking? What do you remember that you were thinking as a younger man?
Yeah, baseball was my outlet. I moved around so much with the family and who was in charge of my well-being during that time. Yeah. And my mom worked a lot, and I had friends and family who stepped in.
Cool.
Made sure we were where we needed to be, what we needed to be doing. So good support system. But yeah, once I was 16, I had my own vehicle. A lot of that burden was passed on to me. So work's always been a big thing for me. I've always worked hard, always had to earn my money.
Yeah. When you were 16 and you started to have your own Corolla as a transportation, did you begin to take on jobs? Like, that sort of was a hustle for you? Did you have to be responsible for making your own gas payments and insurance, the whole deal? Were you sort of on your own?
Yes, I worked for my grandparents out on the farm. We drove garden posts.
Yep.
I cut grass with some friends. I pressure washed, pools. We did all the things. Anything that could make money, we would haul off trash.
Yeah.
do the things we had to do. But yeah, like movie dates, things like that, those were all funded by myself, through hard work and options that my family had helped me present with.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's actually something that we as an organization, Men Build Men, and particularly the Marks of a Man podcast, we definitely want to try to exemplify as men certain characteristics. I think one characteristic that I'm already picking up from you is your desire to work hard and a strong work ethic. Do you want to take like a pause from your story and address maybe some of the listeners about the importance of a good work ethic, or maybe testify or speak to them like the importance, or any young guy that's listening?
Yeah, to the younger guy, listening to this podcast, putting your boots on, strapping up, and taking care of yourself is a very good starting point. Relying on someone else to put their foot in the door for you or to provide for you is a little bit of a weak approach. As a man, we need to stand up. We need to be firm. We need to be out in the environment, helping others, speaking to individuals, looking people in the eyes, shaking hands with people, because I've always been a man of a belief that one handshake could change your life. So you need to shake hands. You need to be speaking to people, getting out, working hard, putting yourself in position, surrounding yourself with people. That's a big one. Surrounding yourself with people that have done what you're wanting to do. And at a young age, you may not know exactly what you want to do, but surround yourself with people that you see characteristics of that you want to obtain as you grow into a young man. And those are definitely some advice I can give.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to speak into the life of them. So 16, 17, you got some hustling, you're working hard, right? You got your own vehicle. You still want to play baseball beyond college or professionally at that point? Do you remember about your life, or what were you thinking at 17, man?
17, man. That's a tough age. But yeah, I was
girls. You were thinking about girls, weren't you?
Yes, yeah, obviously. Yeah. That was a big thing there. And really, I wanted to play ball. Okay. I didn't really know what that looked like. Didn't really have any close friends that were older that had walked that out. So I didn't really have anything to look at. I've seen people that have gotten scholarships, nobody that I was really close to. So I didn't have that vision casted upon me. I knew that it was possible, obviously, but actually walking through that and living that out, it was kind of an unwritten path.
Okay. So were you in any kind of trouble in your high school years? Did you acting out, acting stupid, behaving, or you just tied up busy just with hustling, just working hard, man?
I stayed out of trouble for the most part. My mom, was really disciplined, and she could really just use the phone as the phone taken away was always.
Did you have the phone? Obviously, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I guess phones started coming out in 92, 93, so you were, I don't know, what, early 2005, 2006, something like that?
Yeah, so.
Bro, what was your first cell phone? Did you have like a little Nokia like touch tone or something? Or was it flip?
That's it. It was a Nokia non-flip. The Razor was like the hot one.
Okay.
But it just wasn't I wasn't in the in the class of getting the Razor. I had to wait for it to come out for a few years.
I remember the Nokia thing. All right, so you're getting your phone taken away. So like, boom, you graduate. Did you graduate from Cartersville or Bartow counties?
I went to Woodland.
Woodland. Okay. Mm-hmm. So upon graduation, do you remember sort of what your plan was upon graduation?
I planned and talked with some counselors, and I utilized some financial aid based on my home living situation, and I was able to go to college at little to no cost. So once the college baseball route had panned out, and the financials and what it would cost me to go to a private school to play ball, it just didn't weigh out. So I attended Georgia Highlands here in Cartersville. Cool. Took the education route. I was able to utilize financial aid to where it created less barrier of entry there and less risk long term. Yeah. So did that, and that's kind of where that all led.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Brandon. Like as I was listening to you, I I definitely want to take like time publicly to affirm people and call out to things that I respect. For a younger guy that might not have had a tremendous amount of guidance by some masculine men in your behavior, I want to take a minute to affirm you, to see the difference between pursuing what you really want to do and being prudent to pursue a path that positions you better for a life. Like, hey, I really want to play ball. I really want to go to this private school, but it may cost me $60,000 or $70,000 to indebt myself to do this, versus perhaps it's time for me to not pursue what I want to do and do what's needed because that better positions me. So, man, I just want to take a minute and just affirm you that I respect you for making that call. So you make the call to go to Georgia Highland, give up baseball dream. It's what you wanted to pursue. And as you were studying through Georgia Highland, a local community that's going to be less expensive, right?
Yes.
You were continuing to work your way through college and take classes.
Yeah, I was actually working at a local carpet mill here, and
Okay.
I would work I would go to school between 8 and 2 p.m. I would swing by a local restaurant, fast food real quick at, somewhere between 2 and 3, and I started my shift at 3:15 at the carpet mill, worked till midnight. Got up and did the same thing Monday through Thursday. Friday was the only exception. So Friday we just had no school and there was work.
Yeah.
It started at 3:15. So.
Gotcha. So you slept in on Friday mornings a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Then you were back to it. Saturdays, you were just taking a day off. Sunday. At that point in your life, were you beginning to attend any churches at all? Was a relationship with Jesus in front of you, behind you, beside you, or just completely irrelevant at that point?
It was completely irrelevant at that point.
Yeah. Were you at a 19-year-old postgraduate? Were you, I don't know, were you consuming tobacco? Were you drinking? Were you into girls? Like what else were you doing beside working 5 days a week, getting after it?
Oh yeah. We, once, during that time, it was a lot of alcohol consumption, a lot of, hanging out with people that were not making me a better person overall. Looking back, I learned a lot during those times.
Yeah.
Looking back now, thinking about how, those times were and
Yeah.
how I was feeling during those times and, what was missing. So yeah, that's definitely
I appreciate you
part of that.
being transparent and vulnerable. Do you want to take a minute if there's any 19, 20-year-old dude who's in a similar situation, do you want to take a minute to maybe address what you've experienced in your life looking back that you might counsel him now?
Yeah, definitely don't do the 8 to 2 and 3 to 11 schedule. That was you could that shaves years off your lifespan. So yeah, just be a little more cognizant of that. That's for sure.
Right.
Also, you have to look at the things that are short term and long term, and look at the effects. Short term and long terms. Like I still have friends from that time in my life. There's still people that you can be acquainted with and that you could still connect with from those times. But as you grow older, you'll develop into a new person. Once you surround yourselves, like I said earlier, with the people that are going places, the people that are going to put your best foot forward, that are going to help you put your best foot forward, and also, tell you to your face when you're doing something wrong. Once you find that group of friends that's going to tell you the truth, good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
You can really put yourself in a different position.
Do you remember, dude, looking back, there wasn't a whole lot of male influence in your life. Is that an accurate assessment up until this point? Like a lot of aunts, you were saying your mom was heavily involved, but is it accurate for me to try to glean into your life that there was not a tremendous amount of male involvement? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. My dad was involved when he had to be, and he worked.
Yeah.
And was a father figure when I was in his care.
Yeah.
My grandpa was a big influence. He threw a lot of baseballs to me over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that,
What I was getting at is what sort of helps you shape your direction in your opinion? Like obviously you said at this point in your life, there's no relationship with Jesus. There's no faith, right? And there's not a whole lot of tremendous male involvement into your life. What do you remember about what was shaping you or helping you form your decisions as you were entering into college?
Yeah, my grandma and my mom have always been super hardworking ladies. And I just knew that in order for me to be successful, I had to work hard. And that's where a lot of my work ethic came from.
Gotcha.
So
Right on.
those two ladies, shout out.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's wonderful things to learn from our mothers and grandmothers. All right, so did you have a plan of what classes and courses you were going to take that would perhaps position you for a degree, or were you just knocking out your normal core classes at Georgia Highland at this point?
Normal core classes, no real vision.
Okay.
No idea of what the next steps were. Just knew that I needed to get through, with the options that I was presented.
All right, so you got sophomore, junior year, and is accurate. Like what started changing between your senior or junior and senior year before you finished college?
So yeah, I have a 2-year business degree. So yeah, I was there for. I
Gotcha.
actually spent 4 years obtaining my 2-year degree. So
Okay.
anybody that's going through that or feels like they've been knocked off the bandwagon, that paper looks the same whether it takes 4 to 7 years or.
Yeah.
It's obviously the status quo and the culture is 4 years in and out, but sometimes that's not reality for most.
Yep.
And, I encourage anybody that's on that path now, that's working or having to fight their way through school or paying their own student debt or paying their way to just keep pushing.
That's good, man. All right, so you wrap up a 2-year degree. Then what's the next step for Brandon?
Next step for Brandon was to advance. You know, I was kind of at a dead end position at the carpet mill once I got my associates in business,
Okay.
and so I pursued another career with AT&T. I became a lineman with AT&T, an installer. So that kind of.
How'd that come up? Did you just see an advertisement? Did you know somebody? Did you make an introduction? Did you just randomly apply?
I had some friends that had been up there, and they said, "Hey, this is another position that can get you, X amount of dollars."
Gotcha.
And this is kind of where I just knew that was significantly more than where I was at.
Yeah.
Not really sure if my education really benefited that
Mm-hmm.
because of the nature of the job and the scope and the occupation, but I had that in my back pocket.
Yeah. Do you have to get your CDLs to drive the AT&T trucks or
No, I was in the little bitty guy. I was in the Transit. I was in that little Ford Transit,
All right.
man.
So how long did you work for AT&T as a lineman?
5 years.
Okay. And what was your experience there in those 5 years?
Long, hard days.
Yeah.
Cold, hot, wet. It didn't matter. The job had to get done. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of my upbringing to that point helped me make it through those 5 years, because there were some times where it was hot and it was, it was not, ideal working conditions. And
All right. So you're like 22 to 27, something like that. That's a big 5-year gap. Any kind of were you dating anybody at that time? Like what was happening between those 5 years that you were working for AT&T on your private life?
yeah, I started dating my wife, and we had, we had our times with the bars and still continuing that lifestyle. That was still a big part of our life at that point in time.
Okay.
No kids.
Did you meet your wife at the bar?
I did not. I met my
Okay.
wife. I was actually an orientation leader part-time at the college, and she was a transient student coming back from KSU, taking
Okay.
some classes at Georgia Highlands, and we became. I actually was her orientation leader, and then she was friends with another friend of mine mutually, and we had the little Zaxby's discount on like Tuesdays, I think, or something, and we all kind of went and got
Right
cheap
on.
Zaxby's on Tuesdays because we
Right
were
on.
all with our Highlands student card. So
Yeah.
we became friends that way. We actually had a sociology or psychology class together at some point. So yeah, we met through college.
So I take this chick, I'm getting married to this lady. Was it a pretty quick engagement, pretty quick process of courtship? Boom.
Yeah, I kind of knew, but it took
Gotcha.
me a while, like it does us all, to
All right.
realize that that's the path we're going.
All right, cool. So you get married, and brings us up to speed. Like you've been a couple years married, you work for AT&T, and then what's the next step of your life story? What happens next?
So I had my firstborn. He's 7 now.
Okay.
So had my first boy. We had our first child, and some of those activities that we took part in still continued in a minimal capacity, but that kind of slowed us down a little bit.
Gotcha.
It definitely put us back in the rhythm of what life looks like going forward.
Yeah. What do you think, looking back, what sort of initiated some of the slowness of the extracurricular activities, the bar and so forth, when you began to have your first child? Do you recall sort of what your psyche was? Was it this new weightiness of having a child?
Yeah, I mean, it was different rhythms, different working schemes, different priorities. A lot of stuff shifted in priorities. A lot of mental things were clicking. I didn't want to carry on that lifestyle, and I had no previous history of a parent that was involved in things like that, or any negative things of that nature. I just knew that I wanted to put my best step forward on that.
Right on, man. So you had your first child, still at this point, no faith in your life, no relationship with Jesus at all. So you finished up wrapping up for AT&T, and then did you make a change professionally?
Yeah, I made a change professionally. I finally, through a friend and a connection, made a connection and got a job up there in Atlanta working for Cleveland Electric.
Okay.
And I've been there for 6 years and enjoyed working there.
Is that something that professionally, going from the low voltage side to the security side of Cleveland Electric? Was that just a natural fit? Do you feel like that was an easy jump, or was there a significant professional change where you had to get schooled up and brought up to speed?
I had to get in touch with the processes, and every company has the way they operate. So I
Gotcha.
just had to get in touch with that. But I did more of the system stuff at Cleveland as well. So
Yeah.
I was able to transition pretty smoothly once I understood the office. But going from the field to the office was still a shift.
Yeah.
A lot of different things. A lot of different ways you handle yourself, ways you carry yourself are all different. When you go from the field side back to the office.
So AT&T, you were primarily a field technician out in the field, and then this new professional opportunity was primarily an office situation. Primarily, was that sort of a big deal for you? Actually, a big leap of faith when you've always been sort of a hands-on guy, sort of a boots on the ground type of hard work the entirety of your life.
Yes, yeah. Having to rely on someone else to physically get the work done was
Yeah.
definitely a different thing for me, and the communication had to increase. I had to develop some skill sets that were not natural to me
Okay,
in that time frame.
right on. And when did y'all's family continue to expand? Like now you're working at Cleveland, it's a new situation. You have a longer commute, right?
Yes,
Previously, we haven't really unfolded that. When you worked for AT&T as a lineman, you probably had a vehicle that you operated in and around here, but the new opportunity, you had to travel a great distance to get to work, correct?
yes,
Through Atlanta.
yeah,
Yeah. So the Atlanta commute became real to you.
yes,
Right.
yes, very much so.
All right. So keep catching us and the listeners up to speed a little bit about your life story at that point. You got son number one, you're not drinking as much and so forth and so on. You got a longer commute, right? What other major things happened in your life that began to change y'all's family dynamic?
Yeah, so when after I had my 7-year-old, now I've got a 3-year-old boy as well. So he came into the picture. When he came into the picture, we got somewhere around right before he was born, and when he was born is when we started plugging into the local church here. Started strengthening our faith. At that point, probably prior to when he was born, we were more church goers. We were doing the church thing. So that was really kind of where the faith started. Started realizing that that's something we need to be. We need to do just for our future and the family.
Is that something that you and your wife talked about at the birth of your second child? Like, all right, we need to get plugged into church, or did somebody invite you to come to church, or what began to actually sort of stir that and initiate that change behavior?
I think we had some invites. Thinking back, we had some invites. We tried a few churches here locally, and just we had to figure out where we wanted to call home.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you got involved with church, and you began to strengthen your faith at your second child. So keep running us up to speed. What was happening, stirring in your home life?
So yeah, we were plugging into church, doing the church thing. Going, doing, being a part of the things. But it was like right after he was born, Harrison was born. My 3-year-old, we started plugging in at a deeper level. And as of the past 2 years, we've been on a really big discipleship journey here at Cross Point City, and that's really stretched us beyond belief when it comes to our faith, and really got us plugged in because I think we shifted from doing church to being a part of the church was our biggest shift.
Yeah, do you want to expand on that a little bit for the listeners, or from your heart? What do you mean by that? What do you mean about attending the church versus being a part of that? You want to just keep talking about that?
Yeah, we were going to church, but that was it. Like it was the life outside of the church and outside of Sundays were not really walking the walk. We were just doing the church thing. Going, doing, listening. But until that discipleship journey really hit, we started plugging into a small group with other believers. I started being around more believers, more men, more followers of Christ. I've been here to some Saturday workouts with the Men Build Men guys, so that's been a big part of my growth as a father, is just being a part of organizations who have strong men and have leaders that I can look up to and, surround myself with people that are in the Word.
Yeah. Do you want to share briefly a little bit about why that's so important for you to see and experience other followers of Christ, other men that have belief and trust in Jesus? How does that, not necessarily like how does it make you feel, bro, like emotionally, but like why is that important to you?
It's important to me because I've learned that community is a big thing. You know, I've had a really strong family life growing up. So I do think that being able to have men that you can look to and, have tough conversations with, or be vulnerable with,
Yep.
or share the world, or not the word, or share the word and how you're feeling, and how your soul's feeling.
Yep.
That's been a big strength of mine, and has really unlocked, fatherhood for me.
All right.
It's helped out a lot.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, and if some of my sort of comment to any of the listeners, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit from your experience. But if you're not a part of a discipleship group, if you're not part of a men's group where you can actually receive encouragement and some degree of pushing and accountability of another man, then I think myself and Brandon would probably encourage you to find it, wherever you are. If you're here in Cartersville, you want to join Men Build Men, you're welcome. It's an open invitation for you guys to, participate here at Men Build Men as well. But Brandon, talk to the listeners just a little bit about, from your own personal experience before you were part of discipleship, and a little bit more about expanding on how discipleship actually has impacted you positively.
Yeah. So before, I was running my own life, and I had, I was doing what I thought I needed to do. And sometimes you just have to really think back and realize that what you think you need to do is not what you need to do. And sometimes you have to really think and look back and reflect on yourself and go, is there someone in my life that I can look to that can give me the advice that I need in this time? Is there someone who's been through what I've been through? Is there someone who can shed light or can speak life into me, or encourage me, during those times, or hard times, or, different things, or fatherhood. So, surrounding yourself with men that have been through this fight. A lot of guys that I know of are fathers. They have had kids. So I surrounded myself, with people who are, one or two steps ahead of me, just to understand, how do I make it through this, or what am I doing wrong here, or why is my thought process correct?
Yeah, I think that's a characteristic and a trait, marks of a man. What marks us as manly, what marks us as masculine. For me, what you're talking is that's prudence. It's not weakness to intentionally solicit advice and counsel from older men. To me, that's very prudent, very smart, very discerning on your behalf to say, hey man, I need some assistance, and I'm going to intentionally seek out men who have had the experience and been through what I'm fixing to go through. That's freaking smart. It's not weakness, man.
Yeah, I just had no accountability. And not that you're accountable to someone who's discipling you. It's just, in a sense, you probably should be, but that'll all come through faith in that aspect.
Yep. All right. So you and your wife, 2 children, getting ramped up, being part of a local church here at Cross Point City Church in Cartersville. You attend. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then so you're part of a biblical discipleship process, and some things are stirring in your home and in your life. You're deepening your trust and faith in Jesus. And then sort of begin to unpack for us how Foster has sort of came on the scene.
Yeah, so my wife and I, very early on in our relationship, talked about that being a potential adoption, maybe fostering. That was always something we talked about openly. So that was something that kind of drew us close to each other through our relationship development stages. So with that being in the past, we went through this 2-year discipleship journey. At the very beginning, we were called to, if your need or your calling is something that stretches you, it's time to answer the call. So, during that time, we joined in a care community for a local foster family.
Okay.
Got our feet wet. We really didn't know what we were doing, but we were supporting a family who was caring for the fatherless.
What was that? Unpack that a little bit for the listeners that might not understand that fully. When you were supporting a family that was already a part of fostering, what does supporting that other family look like for the listeners?
It can look like a lot of things, honestly. So we partnered up with the churches. There's organizations here in Cartersville that are developing right now that are supporting local foster families. So what that looks like is as simple as providing encouragement, weekly encouragement. Wednesday nights, we receive meals from our care community. So one night a week we have meals covered. We used to cover those meals for that family in Adairsville. Wrapping gifts at Christmas.
Yep.
You know, that's obviously a lot of things, especially with foster families. If there's multiple bio kids and multiple foster kids, wrapping Christmas presents is a big thing. Washing clothes, cleaning houses,
Yep.
cutting the grass, you know, fixing the fence. You know, all those things are just small, you know, ways where these care communities that Bartow County and Cartersville are building for these foster families
Yeah.
through the church. body.
Serving the needs, what needs to get done. All right. How about for any listeners that might not be up to speed? What is foster care?
Foster care is where an individual, a child, more than likely, obviously, has been removed from their home with their biological parents or their caregivers due to circumstances that are outside of their control. And that's determined by the state. Every case is different. It can be very different. It can be very minimal. It can be very ugly.
Okay. Are most of these children minors and under the age of 18? Is that correct?
For the majority, I would say yes. I would say you're looking at probably the age 10 or below is probably a large number.
Yeah. And sort of like to catch you off guard, you might not know it, but do you have any kind of indication here in the Bartow County where we live, the number of children that are a part of fostering care, or statewide or nationwide? Any kind of statistics that you're aware of?
I don't have any statistics. I know that we've pushed a lot in Bartow County, and we do have current placements from outside of Bartow County that are in Bartow County homes.
Yeah.
So
And if we I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about your experience, but is there a continuing need here in Bartow County, Georgia, for additional people to serve in fostering care? And if so, if they feel led to, how do they become a part of foster care support, or just talk to them a little bit how they can get involved if they want to?
yes, foster care is a huge need here in Bartow County. Everything from becoming full on foster parents to providing a care community. There's some churches around here that I know that are a part of this big journey. I know Sam Jones. I know Cartersville First, Cross Point City, Liberty Square. A lot of these churches are partnered together to develop these care teams to support these foster families and do all those things. There's also like respite care. Respite care you can get certified through the state, and you can, like for a weekend getaway with our bio kids. We could leave our foster kids with the approval of our agencies to leave them in a home that's certified for longer than 72 hours in order for us to be able to go on vacation. So even those things are ways you can help for even just a minor cause.
Gotcha. So you and your wife had talked about it previously. You got 2 biological children of your own. At this point, you feel like God is sort of stirring something in your heart. You're deepening your faith. And then when did you sort of take the move to begin to take some foster children into your physical home?
I remember this very vividly. It was after a sermon one morning. We had a skit from Pastor Paul Richardson, who was serving in Edinburgh, Scotland, at a planted church there. He shared some words and was speaking on answering the call. It's if your phone's ringing and it's sitting on the table, it's time to answer the call. So, my wife and I don't really get into too much dialogue from the services, on the ride homes, stuff like that. But after that sermon, we sat in the car before we left and looked at each other and just said, "Did you hear what I'm hearing?" And I said, "Yeah, I heard it. It was clear."
All right.
So at that point, we were like, we need to start getting through our vetting process, getting through our, figuring out which agency works best for us, and really stepping out from the support role and getting into the weeds ourselves.
And what did that look like? Did that begin to, you got to submit background checks, you got to expose yourself, you got to begin to share your finances, you got to let people into your life to sort of check you out and do background checks? Did you oppose that? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah. We understood it was a part of the process. We vetted through multiple agencies, talked to a lot of people. We have a lot of foster friends here locally that we were able to ask questions to, probably way more questions than they probably really were ready to answer. Yeah. But we went through the process. It's very deep, very thorough. Definitely uncomfortable is probably the word. Yep. But making the decision to get into foster care wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
It was just something we were called to do.
Yeah. Once you walk us through a little bit about the difference between answering the call, the phone was ringing on the desk, this metaphor thing of actually then beginning to continue through your uncomfortableness. Like, why did you not back out or tap out? Why did you continue to advance forward in the midst of your uncomfortableness?
Yeah, it was just through, plugging in prayer. There's a lot of scheduling that goes into being vetted to be a foster parent, a lot of, different, scenarios, different sets of trainings you have to go through, with our bio kids even being busy with sports and, us working full-time jobs. So, it was definitely something that was tough to navigate. And then, just staying involved, staying plugged in, asking the questions and situating ourselves to where we had people that could help us with those answers.
All right. So you go through the process and you're qualified now. How does the first foster child come into your home? Do you remember that?
Yeah, first foster care came into our home the last day of school last year. So we had a little boy that came into our home. Situation was not of any malice. No damage to the child. It was just a situation that mom's working conditions were not suitable for the child at that time. She had no support system here locally. She removed herself from a toxic environment where she was from to come here to escape the situation she was in, and it created a situation here that was unfavorable, and that's how he came into care.
Okay, cool. And so what was that like? Bringing another child into your home with your existing children and existing home. Like, walk us through what it looked like. Was it as beneficial and thumbs up as you had anticipated, or was it also sort of mixed with some difficulty?
It was mixed with some difficulties. Our boys are very well tuned on the mission and the mission of foster care, and we explained to them very thoroughly what that means, what that looks like, and why we do the things that we do and the decisions we make. So that does help, being transparent with them so they understand the reason behind it. It's not just for fun.
Right on.
This is not the vision. So coming in, obviously, though, but with two boys already in the home, 7 and 3, bringing another 7-year-old into the group was definitely not just smooth sailing for sure.
Food bill went up immediately, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
This is sort of the laundry requirements.
Yes.
How many windows were broken and coffee tables destroyed immediately?
And it wasn't immediately, but we have destroyed a window since starting foster care.
Okay,
in a car. It was a side window. It wasn't the front.
Okay.
But yeah,
baseball or some kind of object.
This was a rock.
Okay. I'm sure having 3 boys. Now, do you have any more foster children than just one, or did a second one come in as well?
Yeah, we have a second 19-month-old girl that came into care. She was previously cared for by a family that locally here, actually friends of ours, that once her case went concurrent, which a concurrent case means that they're working a reunification side, which means reunification with parents or victim kin or things like that, or she could potentially be adopted.
Yeah.
Once the potential adoption came into the picture, the family that we're friends with, it was not an option for them to adopt. It was not in the best interest of their family to adopt, so they reached out. We coordinated a lot of that. We are an adoptive home and adoptive resource for her, but we are still actively pursuing reunification with her family as well.
Okay, excellent. I know that we had talked previously a little bit about when we had asked you to be a guest here and talk about your life story here, that you had mentioned, hey, a lot of people I scheduled. You and I were texting before we began recording about lining up people. Why don't you give a minute and just tell the listeners a little bit about the community that it takes to support you and your wife and your family just to continue to do what you do. And secondly is even that you're here now, that there's people that are serving you and your family. And it's definitely a collaborative community effort. You want to speak to that a little bit, man?
Yeah. So, let's go back to the community aspect of it. Small group. I've got a small group with other foster families and other couples with children, and they are a resource for us. A lot of the times, when they need help, when we need help, we're there for each other. That's a really big sense of community for us. Family, my grandparents, my aunts, my mom, a big support for us in that aspect. The church and the support staff for the fostering vision. We've had water leaks. We've had, the construction team's been out to help make sure our walls are still, our walls are still sealed and put back together, and the pipes are all good. In the small group, I said small group, the care community. Our care community is a Bible study group of about 15 females.
Okay.
And the way our schedule works for us, we have a lady that's a leader that reaches out to my wife once a week, talks about prayer requests, prayer needs, praise reports, things like that. Just adult interaction for my wife in that aspect. You know, a weekly phone call. We do have Wednesday night deliveries of meals. So they rotate. They have a schedule.
Yeah.
Wednesday nights we have meals. We know on Wednesday nights we don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about going anywhere. We don't have to worry about that. Food shows up. So we're super thankful for those ladies. Also, twice a week, we have one lady or groups of ladies in that group that filter in for laundry,
Okay.
pick up, drop off, things like that. So yeah, between those, we have an awesome neighbor. He's an older guy, and his family, his daughter actually fosters here locally. So he's a very, very good resource for us. And he's very understanding with the kids, and when they're out playing, he kind of keeps an eye on them with us. So yeah, it takes a village for real.
Yeah, man, that's actually really encouraging to hear of how many supportive individuals continue to support the collaborative effort. And you hear that a lot. It takes a village, but then when you begin to unpack it and share from your experience, just how many people that are participating in it, I think is actually very, very, very encouraging. I don't think a tremendous amount of our audience is women. I think we were direct the majority of our conversation to men as we cover the marks of a man and manly behavior. But if any of you listeners and your wives or grandmothers would like to get involved in supporting in some of those things, like obviously they could just check out what Cross Point City Church, or can they First Baptist Church, Cartersville, Cross Point City Church, Sam Jones?
Sam Jones, Liberty Square. There's also local foster agencies. You've got Goshen Homes. You've got Mountaintop Homes, which we are a part of there. You have WindShape here locally in Rome. Families for Families is local here. A big presence, but a lot of these organizations are in Bartow County and serving Bartow County families. So there's agencies to where you can plug in to see where you can plug in.
Yeah, why don't you give those agencies again one more time for the listeners that primarily give them to them?
The agencies that I'm familiar with, you have Mountaintop Homes, you have Families for Families, you have Goshen Valley Homes, you have there's one more that I'm forgetting here, but yeah, those
right on. Tell me a little bit about how fostering over the last year or two has really developed your faith and belief in Jesus, right? And then second thing I want to ask is a little bit about how it's changed you as a man, as a father, right? So tell me a little bit about your faith, how this situation of being obedient to answering the call has actually shaped and changed you as a man in your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, it helps me. It helps definitely with my boys, and then like I spoke on briefly earlier about, explaining the mission, sharing with them the reason why we're doing what we're doing, getting them behind the vision, and also like being involved with these groups and these agencies and these individuals that have been through this. It does help form relationships, community, and there's nothing about fostering that's rainbows and unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's ugly. I mean, it can get ugly at times, and there's behaviors that surface. There's feelings that are uncertain. There's there's a lot of gray areas in that industry that require a lot of prayer, a lot of plugging into other individuals, a lot of asking questions, and it can be very frustrating at times. I mean, court days are probably my most frustrating days. I mean, I'm managing a large project here in Atlanta, and that comes to nothing when it comes to like a court day. A court day is also, there's a lot of information being passed around, and it's very demanding, physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
But what I have learned is that there is fruit on the other side of obedience. I've strengthened in my faith, my family's faith, the vision going forward. Plugging into church, actually being a part of the church and not just going was big. When it comes to generosity, all those things that have shined its head during this time of like, hey, I probably should be doing this, probably should be doing that. These are the things that I'm called to do and I'm obligated to do. So just being able to be stretched and allowing the good Lord to stretch you and give you that, the vision of what it looks like going forward.
Okay.
Is something once you accept that, we are in charge of the faithfulness and he is in charge of the fruitfulness.
Got you. All right. How has it changed you as a father?
I'm great at multitasking now. I mean, it's when you're outnumbered at home. It's I mean, you definitely know what that's like. Once you're outnumbered, it creates a lot more. It sometimes can be a logistical nightmare, and it's okay.
Good.
It's okay to admit that. And it's okay to live through it because like right now I've got two biological boys playing sports here in Bartow County, and then I've got my foster boy playing soccer. So if you guys can add just like I can, there's a mom and a dad, and then there's three kids. So there's always a need for someone, sometime, somewhere. And,
Unless one of your children pull out your old Civic 5-speed and starts getting after it before they're 16, right?
yeah.
Right on. Do you think you're going to give your kids a manual shift car?
Man, I don't know.
I can't even find them anymore, man.
Yeah, they're rare.
Yeah, I was actually looking for a manual speed Subaru for our daughters to drive so they wouldn't be able to drive and text at the same time because driving a manual. And it's crazy how limited purchasing a vehicle that has a manual drive is. But maybe you'll do a better job in a few years of finding a manual driven vehicle for your children to drive than me. Yeah, man. So all right, sort of wrapping this thing up, I think you've shared from your heart a little bit, but is there anything else that you want to sort of talk to the listeners about to encourage them, hey, give it a shot, or anything else that you've learned as a process, this and ongoing process? It's not like you're finished, right? No. You're still very much in process now, but is there anything else you want to just take a minute to address the listeners about where you're at and what you're currently learning and how that might actually affect them as well?
Yeah, so we can step back a little bit here. My wife and I were looking to build a new custom home a couple of years back, and after we were looking through the logistics of it, it just didn't make sense at the time. And looking back now, making that decision and advancing a home that could have been slightly out of budget would have taken away what we were able to do in our tithes and our giving and our generosity. And making that decision and staying put and accepting the fact that we are staying put, we're not moving to the bigger, the nicer, the things, and making that decision and finally being able to accept that and understand that I'm in the position that I'm in for a reason to do what I'm doing. And yes, a new bigger house would be more efficient. It could be, we're going to have more square footage. We wouldn't be as packed, but in the house we're in, there's lots of love. And with like I said earlier, the neighbor that I have has been a huge impact on me and my kids. Right on. And I believe that God placed me in this home, in this location for a reason, and for me to try to run from it back then and try to escape that was the devil trying to pull me towards something bigger and better, when really in reality, his vision for my family and our faith is what's the most important, and we made that decision.
Yeah, right on. As I was listening to you talk, the word contentment came into my mind, and then again how you were more content with conceding to giving up your baseball dream. I think those two things from this interview struck me, and again I tried to affirm you earlier. I want to try to affirm you now that it's encouraging to hear a man that chooses to be content and trust in his current circumstances, and maybe not understanding exactly how our decision today will position and set us up in the future. If you had the freedom, which you described that you did, to purchase a bigger home and you had the freedom, but you chose not to. You chose to just be content. How that positioned your family to be used as God's instrument to foster. We don't know what's going to happen in the future moving forward, right? But it's definitely struck me that that's a decision that you made that positioned you. To your point earlier, what you're talking about is if you had exercised your freedom and flexibility to stretch yourself, it wasn't like you were doing anything wrong. You just might not have been able to bear as much fruit, like on the size of the tree or whatever the metaphor is, man. As I was listening to you, that sort of struck me. I just want to take a minute and say I appreciate your desire to be content, trusting God with what you have, and to be prepared to be used. I think that's a lot of times that I know here at Marks of a Man podcast, we talk about the characteristics of men, and men build men. We teach hard skills and soft skills. And a lot of our conversation is about being prepared for what might come. And it might not. It might not. But that doesn't doesn't eliminate our need to be prepared, right? Just because you got the resource doesn't mean you have to spend them immediately. Just because you got a skill doesn't mean that you don't have to train and be prepared to use it in the future. So I just want to say that, B, that I appreciate you and respect you and affirm you, your decision to be content. And it's exciting that you're participating with Men Build Men, you know, that your boys are over here. It's encouraging for us at Men Build Men to have the opportunity to influence some of these men, young men. And it's like, that's how it works, man. Like, here we are in an organization. Your faithfulness, you and your wife's faithfulness has provided an opportunity for an additional organization to have an influence. You know, I think it's pretty cool how it works out.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I love plugging into this group. You know, being involved in the community.
Yeah.
You know, plugging in with the church.
Yeah.
It's really been a huge impact on my life.
We had those boys on the roof at Men Build Men. We have service opportunities. And I remember, you know, Brandon brought his boys over there, and the task of the day was to clean gutters of our senior community. And I don't know what the roof's, 12, 13 feet high or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
fairly steep pitch, you know, 6 to 12 pitch. And I was like, hey, we're sending the boys up there. And I remember telling one of the boys, like, hey, listen, don't fall off. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. And they didn't. And I think that's how you treat young men. You give them the responsibility. And I just want to take a minute to say publicly that I appreciate those young boys and their desire to accept the responsibility and charge that an older man had given them, and then to perform well in the service. I think some of that doesn't come naturally to them. I think some of that's because you have briefed them as your sons to be prepared of a mission, right? And I think that's entirely appropriate for us as men to address younger boys and brief them and bring them up to speed on what is expected of them. And I think more importantly, providing an opportunity for them to live out our expectation. That's the problem, is when we don't strap it to them and then give them the opportunity, because they can do it. Your boys did it. So I just wanted to say publicly that was an encouragement to me, was to assign those guys the task and then to watch them succeed doing it. So it's good stuff, bro. That comes from your fathering. Cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to wrap things up with for the interview and charge the listeners anything additionally?
Yeah, so I just want to a praise moment. So our first foster boy, as we said, came into care the end of the school year last year. So we're wrapping up almost a year, roughly, of having him. Through that year, we've had some hard times. We've had some doubts. We've had some questions. We've partner parented with mom very well. You know, we've been her visits have been cut short due to the government not supporting the needs of transporters. So we've taken it amongst ourselves to invite her into our family and spend time with us and to really disciple mom and really be a resource for her. So, and we got to witness her baptism 2 weeks back at Cross Point.
Yeah.
And we got to witness, you know, my foster boy stand at the side of a tub and watch his mother get baptized. I mean, there's nothing more, you know, that supports the mission than to see a son get excited about his mom get baptized. So there's things like that. There is beauty in foster care, and working with the mom and working with, you know, the dad, if in that case, if that's the situation, and partnering with them and being a support and being encouragement to them. We are on track. We have unsupervised visits going on with mom currently, and we are on track for him to be going back to his biological mother at the end of this school year.
That's good work, bro.
So there is a potential for reunification, and it's not always ugly. Is it going to be easy? Probably not. Is it going to be hard on my wife and I and my boys? Probably so. But we understand and we communicate openly very often, very frequently that this is the goal, and reunification, if possible, is the way to go, and that's what's best for the family at the end of the day. So being able to watch that out and really do that successfully, you know, and this was our first, you know, full run with foster care, and we're able to reunify potentially. That's really encouraging for us, and for anyone who's thinking about, you know, fostering. I strongly suggest plug in, get some resources, get some information. You know, there's a lot of resources here in town that can provide you or connect you with people who have or haven't done it in certain capacities, and just plug in and be a part of God's movement, because what this county is doing in foster care is astronomical.
Right on.
It's going to change generations.
That's a good word, man. All right. So any listeners who want to connect with Brandon, I think Brandon Harden is Facebook. What's your handle on Facebook there? They can find you.
Yeah, I think I've got Brandon Harden on Facebook and something similar to that on Instagram.
Hardin.
Yes,
Harden.
with an I, yes.
Brandon Harden on Facebook. Yeah, man. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and look for you to continue to be a part of what we're doing here. And Marks of a Man podcast is a production of Men Building Men. Until next time, thank you.